Amid the brutality and tragedy that the Iraq War has unleashed, I wanted to try and find stories that could offer hope for the country's future. The district of Sayyida Zainab in Damascus is one of the largest communities of Iraqi refugees in Syria. There are many here who are too afraid to return to Iraq, having fled sectarian atrocities in their villages and neighborhoods. But in exile, the main religious divisions take second place to the business of surviving.
صارت التفرقة بين السنة وبين الشيعة. هذا السني يقتله وهذا يجي الشيعي يقتله، يعني حارة العالم. القل الشيعي تنقتل وقل السنة تنقتل. واحنا زمان وين كان يعني الشعب سنة وشيعة، بس تراب الوطن ما نبيع.
Nabil Hani is a world-renowned violin maker who has traveled all over the world. 4 years ago, he left his home in Baghdad. It's unlikely he'll ever return.
Basically, there's never been issues between Sunnis and Shias. It's all a fairy tale. I mean, millions of Iraqis have been living together for centuries. We never spoke of Sunni this or Shia that. I mean, the divisions just didn't exist. I have many friends who aren't from my sect. It just doesn't matter. It's only existed since the war. Here, I feel like I'm back in Baghdad. The area, the people, they know me and I know them.
Left to their own devices, Iraqi refugees here in Damascus are recreating the mixed communities that defined their lives back home in Iraq before the war. In places like this, you don't find Iraqis defined by their faith or their sect. They are first and foremost Iraqis. The war has gone through many phases. While the attacks against coalition forces continue, the conflict has increasingly become a fight for power and territory between Shia and Sunnis, tribal disputes which are complicated by the religious divisions. One person who understands this complex landscape more than most is Canon Andrew White, the so-called vicar of Baghdad.
You can't really see anything except the sky, and all you can see is sky, palm trees, concrete barriers and trailers.
He's been in Iraq for over 10 years, and before the invasion, he warned British and American diplomats about the potential for sectarian strife.
I said that we have got to deal seriously with the religious issues, the Sunni-Shia issue predominantly. I said if we do not, we will have a massive amount of religious insurgency, terrorism and violence on our hands. And they said to me, both of them, we've got to deal with water and electricity first. Only then can we start thinking about religion. And then one of them said to me, this isn't a religious country anyway, it's very secular, so religion isn't a major issue.
Despite suffering from multiple sclerosis, Canon White works tirelessly to bring the different religious groups together, and sometimes acting as an intermediary in hostage negotiations. He also has a ministry at the only Anglican church left standing in Iraq. I joined him on his way to a service there.
Those cars in front of us and behind of us, the army and the police are all there protecting us. And as you'll see in the car in front, they don't keep their guns inside either. It's really very high profile and very dramatic, and they will do anything to get us there. I always say to them, please don't shoot anybody on the way to church. I don't like people being shot. Terrible things happened to me, but even worse things happened to my Iraqi people. All of my colleagues, my co-workers, assistants from St George's were on their way back from a conference in Jordan, and they were all kidnapped. And we presume killed. Most of those who disappear, we never find their bodies. In 1 year, I had 11 of my staff killed, both from the church and the Iraqi Institute of Peace, which I was running. I've never had a baby cry yet when I baptise them, so we can't let her cry. Right, you hold that.
In a city racked by tragedy and grief, the vicar and his congregation offer a rare glimpse of optimism.
Often when things are very bad, I arrange to go and see my Iraqi people at the church, and I sit down with them and I spend time with them and I encourage them and I laugh with them and I cry with them, and that gives me hope.
But hope is a rare thing elsewhere in Baghdad. For many, the war has led to despair. On my last day, American soldiers seemed to be assembling for a patrol. But what they wanted was a memento of their war. Iraqis have been left with terrible memories of this conflict they will never escape. However each of us in the West felt about the rights and wrongs of the invasion 5 years ago, Iraq is as divisive now as it was then. In the midst of all the statistics to have emerged from this conflict, it is ordinary Iraqis who can judge the history of the last 5 years. And as the Iraqi saying goes, history has a filthy tongue.